By now you surely have noticed how impressive Vienna is. For centuries, it has been a magnet for artists and famous people from all over the world. Like the Austrian writer and journalist Karl Kraus said, the streets of Vienna are paved with culture. Those of other cities are paved with asphalt. Many famous people like the psychiatrist Sigmund Freud, the composer and director Gustav Mahler, the painters Egon Schiele and Gustav Klimt, the writer Arthur Schnitzler and the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein lived and worked in Vienna. I have just named a few, but they all have one thing in common. They are representatives of the modernist era in Vienna. The Leopold Museum portrays all the aforementioned personalities and also the mind-blowing artifacts that come with them on display. And I now want to give you some impressions to remember. How lucky am I bumping into the artistic director of the museum, Director Wipplinger, just the person I want to talk to now.
Great, it's a pleasure having you here.
Hello, how nice to meet you and thank you for making time. As you might know, we just come from an art sighting at the Donaukanal and now we cannot wait diving into the fascinating world of fin de siècle Vienna. Can you give us a little bit of insight on what to expect?
Yes, our audience expect a show on 3 floors with about 1,300 works of art around Vienna 1900. This period is very exciting because it was a time of contrasts. We have on the one hand very conservative, aristocratic people at that time, and on the other side we have liberal, innovative, modernist intellectuals. So it was really a different atmosphere of contrasts, and it was the source of modernism. Not only here in the monarchy, but Vienna was famous at that time as the cultural capital of Europe.
This is interesting. So the whole fin de siècle, this period is comprehensively shown here at the Leopold Museum.
Yeah, it's not only about the arts and crafts, it's also interesting how the society works at that time. So it's a mixture of several or various media as well if you walk through this exhibition.
Speaking of sciences, I've also seen so much about medicine. For instance, the medical faculty painting, one of a series of paintings by Gustav Klimt, intended for the ceiling of the University of Vienna's Great Hall, 1900 to 1907. Is it actually true that Klimt came under attack for pornography and that in the end, none of these paintings would go on display in the university?
Exactly, that's right. But it's not only the aspect of pornography in these faculty paintings, it's also important to mention that the professors of the university expect something very different. They expect kind of a glorifying the rationality of that time. It was a problem for more than 80 professors of the university that he is focusing not on the rationality but on consciousness, on let's say temptation, love, sexuality, the death, it's in the center of the painting as well, pain, all these aspects. So they protest and wrote to the Minister of Education that he should give back the 30,000 crowns and he should stop his commission. And after nearly 10 years, he started this work 1894 and 1905. He stopped all this work, give back the money, take the paintings back and sold the paintings to private collectors.
Well, this is a sad story, but in the end we do have this reproduction. And it's fascinating, the aspects you just told us. There are so many aspects. It's not just an image of medicine, but all the aspects that come in here. Thank you for this explanation.
You're welcome.
I'm so in awe of Gustav Klimt and his artwork. You told me that you have many pieces of him in the museum. So now I would be interested on how many pieces of artwork you actually have on display and how many you have on storage.
So we have at about 1,300 artworks on display and another 5,000 in the storage. So, but I have to say that the masterpieces by Richard Gerstl, Egon Schiele, Oskar Kokoschka, Coleman Moser are of course open to the public and permanently presented in the museum.
Wow, what a visually stimulating artwork. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
So this is indeed one of our master painting, or the master painting of Gustav Klimt in our collection. We are not sure why, it's still a miracle, but he several times repainted this sujet. So he changed, for instance, the deaths. Now it's more dynamic. In the original vision, it is more static. And also the circle of life with the pair of love, with the old lady, with mother, with child, was changed a lot. During his life, he never presented this painting in Vienna, which is also interesting.
That's really impressive. And there is such a correlation to medicine, the circle of life that begins when being born and that ends when on the deathbed. Sometimes a chair is just a chair, but in this case they seem like real works of art. However, I have to say, as a matter of fact, they don't seem to be very comfortable. So can you tell me what was meant to be portrayed by this kind of furniture and who was it intended for?
Yes, so this is part of the Viennese Jugendstil DNA. The artists at that time, especially after Josef Hoffmann and Coleman Moser founded the Wiener Werkstätte, they produced all different things for their own home. So furniture in all kinds, not only chairs. The idea was to fulfill the whole life with arts, not only thinking of paintings and drawings, but every little aspect surrounding you at home is a piece of art. And this is very special under the idea of Gesamtkunstwerk of the Vienna secession between 1903. The Wiener Werkstätte then was eliminated in the 1930s, but this was this really strong period in the beginning of the 20th century.
So speaking of art and purpose, you said that many of these chairs had a specific purpose. So you said there was the listening chair, or? Yeah.
There are not so comfortable chairs for discussion, for conversation, where you have to be very concentrated. Then, for instance, you have this kind of chair where you can relax. So you have a working chair on the table. So all different variations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wipplinger. This was a wonderful treat having you giving us a guided tour through the Leopold Museum. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
In my introduction, I mentioned many names of famous people who lived and worked in Vienna. In the back you can see some of them. One very dear personality to me is the composer, conductor and director of the Vienna State Opera, Gustav Mahler. As you might know, he was not always very well received in Vienna, with the Viennese being known as a somehow difficult audience. Nevertheless, he enjoyed his job and did it outstandingly. Let me lead you into Mahler's workplace and we'll walk in his footsteps for a moment.